Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome in, welcome in. My name is Jessica M. Harris, and I'm the host of the Ignite Your Glow podcast. And we are back with a brand new episode. So let's get it and let's go. So today's conversation, I really wanted to talk to those of you who maybe you have this like fear of public speaking, or maybe you're not necessarily afraid of speaking, but maybe you've had people like talk about it, right? To the point where there's some insecurities regarding it, and you're kind of like, speaking is my superpower. I feel like I should do it. I feel like I'm called to it, but there's something about the past experiences that I've endured that gives me that hesitation, right? There's something about what people have told me in the past that kind of causes me to pause. So I don't even like want to really do it, but I kind of feel called to it. Now, if that's you, this is going to be that conversation for you to listen into, especially because I don't want you to feel like you're the only one. Like, for real. Because YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everything, right? They'll get you believing that everybody just woke up one day and just had all the confidence in the world to get up on a camera and start talking. When the reality is, they probably had their own experiences of people telling them, honestly, the exact same thing. And I wanted to share with you my personal story because I believe that by sharing my story and my experiences of what I've gone through with that part is going to encourage someone else to feel like, I get it. I've been there too, right? And maybe you can relate to what I've gone through, or better yet, share it in the comments what your experience was like. So let's get into it. For those of you who don't know, I am a super duper fast talker. Like, I talk a million miles a minute. And maybe in some of my recent videos, you haven't really caught on to that part. But if you listen to some of my older videos or like some of my older prayers, y'all, it's like, what did you just say? Girl, where is the breath of life in the midst of those sentences? And I promise you, this is something that I have dealt with my entire life since I was a kid. Now, I'm talking about to the point where you could be talking and having a whole full blown conversation, a whole presentation, and me, right, would get interrupted by teachers, right, by adults, by whoever was listening, and being like, Jess, there's a period at the ends of sentences so you can take a break, so you can breathe, so you can pause, right? Hence the name of this episode, right? There is power in your pause. Why? Because when you pause, you give the opportunity for others to take in what you said. When you pause, you give time for emphasis, right, on a matter. Now, although I knew these things because you're taught it in school, I didn't take that into consideration when I would speak. Why? Because for me, by nature, I would just spitball. Like, I would just go, 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 go. And I would do pauses at the most random times in the middle of a sentence, y'all. Like, I promise. Like, we could be reading a paragraph in a book and it would be like, Jess, where are you? Now, you can laugh because I've had to laugh at myself for this too. But I wanted to share that part with you, that like clumsy story of how I used to talk, of how I used to read, of how I used to engage and present and things of that nature, because that's honestly who I was, right? That's a part of my story. That was a part of the ways in which I spoke. And those were some of the areas that I struggled in a lot because it took time for me to be able to be like, okay, this is what you're doing, but this is what we're going to change, right? And hear me when I tell you that change did not come overnight. That change did not happen in elementary school or middle school or high school. Y'all, that change really didn't get into effect like really good, honestly, not until I got into college. And that's like to be like completely honest, completely like transparent, right? It wasn't until I hit college, and in college, I would have presentations and I would have professors who would hear the presentations and they're like, Jess, your presentation's good, but I need you to slow down. I almost said sat down, right? But it's like, I need you to sit down and I need you to really take in what you're saying, right? Because can you imagine having something so amazing and so profound to speak on, and because you're going so fast, no one is able to catch it? So the emphasis that it carries gets missed. Now, in school, it probably didn't seem as big of a deal to a fault to me about that part until I started taking into consideration how other people presented. So I was the person that would be like, we have a presentation today. Okay, I'm going last. Like, I'll go last. Yep. Why? Because I didn't want to one present. That's just for starters. I'll be very honest. I just didn't want to present. So let me go last. Why? Because in my mind, if I'm last, hopefully there's a chance that I'll go the next day, right? Y'all, I was a mess. Anyways, number two of me going last was because I wasn't confident. Like, yes, I felt like I could speak because obviously I could have a conversation. I enjoyed having conversations, but when it came to presenting information, it felt like I just had to go quick, 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 just to get to the end, right? Like I would rush through it because I didn't want to sit there and actually be engulfed in the conversation. I just wanted to get to the end, right? Not taking into consideration that who I'm speaking to, right? The audience actually has to be able to take in what I'm saying so they can receive that message. That wasn't my perspective when I would speak. And I wanted to share that part because sometimes when we're afraid to do something, we'll try to rush through it, right? We'll try to get to the end of it. Like if you've ever had a paper at school, right? And you're like, crap, I don't know what I'm doing here. Let me just put something together really quickly, right? And submit it. Why? Because you're rushing through it to get to the end. You're rushing through it so you can at least say something was presented, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Those were things that I did because there was fear, right? There was a lack of confidence there. Um, I wasn't, I wasn't feeling myself in these areas to be like, oh, I could do it. It was kind of like, I'm gonna just put something together and just keep pushing, right? And obviously there's ramifications for that, right? Not always great, not always getting the best grade for those assignments, but having the opportunity to do them over. Why? Because I had people who saw potential. And that was the difference. And that's something that I wanted to highlight as well. That I didn't go from being someone who would hate presenting, didn't want to present, to being like a person who doesn't mind it right after the fact on my own. It came from having people who saw the potential in me. It came from having professors who were like, you have something that's worth saying and worth listening to. So let's get you into a place where you have the confidence to be able to present that and convey the information in such a way that people can receive it and acknowledge that. I remember taking a public speaking class and I remember thinking like, okay, we have public speaking. This is great. They're going to help me, gain some tips and tricks. And for me, they did, right? When I took the public speaking class, um, some of our days, I believe, were online and some days were in class, right? Because it was a hybrid class. And I remember one of the things that we had to do was not just present out loud, but we needed to be able to record and essentially assess ourselves. And I promise you, before that point, that's not what I did. I didn't do that in high school. I didn't do that at the beginning of my college career. I didn't do that in middle school. I had never actually sat down to record myself and then watch. Because oftentimes, if there was a recording of me in it, I would like that person who would cringe. I'm like, ugh, change it, right? Like if I was because I used to do performances. I used to do like dance performances and stuff. I was in dance teams, I was in dance groups, I did cheerleading and all types of other stuff, right? So anytime there was like a performance of some sort that was recorded, I would be cringing. I'm like, do I have to relive that? Right? I didn't want to watch it. So it wasn't until I became an adult where I actually had to acknowledge like the only way you're going to get better is to actually take the time to watch yourself, is to take the time to see what you're doing and to see where mistakes are being made and where there's room for growth. It wasn't until I was an adult that I actually valued that feedback, that constructive criticism. Because beforehand, it was kind of like in one ear and out the other. Because in my mind, it was like, I'm just doing this to pass the test. I'm just doing this to get a grade, right? I wasn't doing it to gain something of value. I didn't see the value beyond getting an A or a B. I didn't see the value that it would have for me beyond the stages of schooling. Once I was able to see that value, once I was able to recognize um how much that makes a difference in the things to come, right? Whether it was in jobs, whether it was, in business, whether it was social media, whatever the case may be, right? I didn't see the future value of those things, but I had people who did, right? So because I had professors who saw potential, because I had professors that would look at me and be like, I see where you are right now, but there's potential for you to be a good speaker. There's potential for you to walk on stages. There's potential for you to do more. They wanted me to be able to identify and to be self aware of these things. So when I took the time to listen, right? Because essentially they were coaching me, right? They were teaching me, they were mentoring me. I didn't look at it as a coaching or a mentoring situation. I saw it as somebody who had constructive feedback and I was willing to take it and kind of run with it. But now looking back, I am able to understand that what they were doing was cultivating me in a space where I could move from where I was to where I needed to be to reach the areas that they could see, right? They were helping me to be cultivated in a space to reach the future potential because they knew there was a future impact that could come forth. So that's the same thing with you. You may not be someone who sees yourself, as a speaker. You may not be someone who sees yourself as ready to, go on social media and do lives or make videos and stuff. And listen, maybe you are. If you are, congrats. Listen, keep pushing, keep going. But if you're not, understand me. It's okay to feel that way for now, but know that there's potential waiting for you. Know that there's a future impact of that future version of yourself that's awaiting for you to move from where you are right now to getting to that next place, period. And oftentimes we have to be able to allow that criticism to come in, right? And it's not, remember, it's constructive criticism. So this isn't somebody saying to you, you're awful, don't speak again, don't ever do X. Like, no, that was not my experience. Now, did I have people say, Jessica, you need to learn how to put a period in your sentences because you're having runoffs as you talk? Yes. Those are the people I didn't listen to. I'm just going to be honest. But the ones who sat there and was like, Jess, if you could pause at the right moments in your speech, in your presentation, there'll be more impact to what you're speaking right now, that you can have a bigger difference being made. And I feel like once you understand that concept, you'll be able to shift your conversations or your presentations and it will reach people in a different way. And that was the difference. That's what I had to learn. Once I learned that concept, once I was able to move away from one mindset and shift into the other one, it made sense. Things start to click and pieces start to come together. And I took that advice and I ran with it. I started making my recordings on my computer and I would listen to it and I would watch how I spoke. I will look at my nervous tendencies. I will look at how I would kind of look around the one room. And then I would start telling myself, okay, if you feel as though you are nervous, well, let's do this instead. If you're feeling as though you're nervous, why not begin looking far off into the audience? Why not begin focusing on a person in the audience, right? These were tips that I was gaining from that class. They were like, okay, if you're feeling nervous, focus in on an area, focus on a particular person, focus in on a particular spot, focus in on a particular area of that room. So that's what I would do. That was my practice. So when I did class presentations, sometimes I would focus on one person and I'm talking to the audience as a whole, but my focal point would be in one area and that would allow me to flow. Or my focal point would be instead of me looking at one person to essentially look past that person, but in a way where I would not be paying attention to people's facial reactions. There we go. Because if I paid too much attention to a person's facial reactions, it would mess me up, right? Because then I would be trying to gauge in my mind, like, are they paying attention? Are they understanding me? Are they not understanding me? And at that time, the social cues was like too much, right? Because I was trying to, kind of think ahead of time of all the things that they were doing when the reality was that I just needed to focus in on what I was saying. Now, yes, as you develop and you mature in your speaking, you are going to be paying attention to some of the cues, right, of people. You are going to be paying attention or noticing, I'll rephrase, right? How people engage, how people are paying attention, how people may not be paying attention. And you still have to understand this is your message. Keep pushing, right? I know for some people, maybe they'll shift gears depending on the nature of the conversation, or they keep going because they understand that the part of impact is coming in the delivery that they have it, that they're doing it in, right? And that's a whole different spinoff, right? Like, I'm not a speaking coach, but I'm letting you know the experience that I've had and how it's helped me and how it's developed me into being more confident to go up and tell my story and going up and sharing, poems and writings and blogs and pieces and things of that nature that come to mind. And I'm sharing those points with you because sometimes you have to be able to witness a person's development and a person's growth and to hear, like, listen, how I started right now is not where it was always at. And that is probably the biggest factor that I wanted to offer today is that where you see the version of me today, or better yet, the version of you today, right, isn't going to remain that way forever. There's a woman who, um, I'll shout her out, Tamara Mitchell Davis. There's a quote that she says on Facebook all the time, and I don't know if it's hers or someone else's, but I love the quote. And the quote says, "Don't judge me based on the chapter that you walked in on." And I thought that was so profound because regardless of where you see a person's progress, whether it's in their speech, in their speaking, in their talking, in their recordings, right? Whether it's in their entrepreneurship journey, whether it's in their content creation, it doesn't matter, right? Livelihood, life, home life, parenthood, right? Anything. Wherever they are right now, don't judge them based on that chapter because you don't know about the chapters that are ahead of them, right? There's so much potential that lies ahead that they're simply in the process of getting what they need to get to that point, and you're watching the refining process as they flow. So, that is essentially my story of really having to take time to watch myself. And there's more to that, but this is like 20 minutes in already, and I don't want to make this a long video. But I really wanted you to take that in today, right? And understanding that what you're seeing right now for your journey, especially for someone who may want to jump on social media or somebody who may, want to get up on camera and do podcasting, or maybe you are somebody who wants to get up on stages and speak out loud. I want you to understand that there's growth that happens and that you may not come out as the perfect version right now when you're speaking, right? You could have class and have to present, or you can have presentations at your job, right? Start there. Start with your classes, start with your jobs, start with your family, start with your friends, right? Start with the smaller pieces if that makes it more comfortable for you. And ask for their honest opinion, ask for their honest feedback, right? And be willing to receive the feedback that is constructive, right? That allows opportunities and room for growth. And record yourself. Don't be afraid to record. Listen, that was probably one of the best things I had did and one of the best advices my professors ever could have given me was just hit record and just watch yourself and pay attention to how you're interacting. And my professors were not the only ones to tell me that advice because I got that advice over the years as well. But it started there. It started with someone who saw potential and was able to give me some keen tools, for real, that allowed me to be able to progress moving forward. So I hope this helps somebody. I hope this allows you to gain some more confidence when it comes to that part. And I hope you understand that it's okay to be flawed. Like, listen, we all have flaws, period. If you have a stutter, it's okay. If you have a different type of speech impediment, right? It's okay. You may have to learn some tips and tricks of your own to be able to harness that superpower because it doesn't take away from your message. For me, I look at it as an enhancement. Why? Because it allows you to own what you are saying and it provides emphasis that you're not going to give up because of X, Y, and Z. But instead, you're going to learn some strategies, some tools, some tips, and you're going to come out as unapologetic and as authentically you as possible, and however that looks according to your life. So, again, I am Jessica M. Harris here. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignite Your Glow podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the channels. And y'all, if you're looking for someone to talk to, maybe you want to get some one on one feedback, I want to invite you to book a one on one session so this way we can talk a little bit further on helping you to also lay out a more firm foundation, right? So you too can see the refined success that is needed for your life. Peace and blessings, and have a great day.